Hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com.
Leaders in triathlete sweat testing and hydration with multi-strength electrolytes that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off with the code Oxygenaddict15.
Team Oxygen Addict at team.oxygenaddict.com.
Event-specific training plans, coaching guidance from Coach Rob Wilby and supportive teammates in a private Facebook group.
And also our patrons,
who support the show with a monthly donation.
And hello, welcome to the show. It's bonfire night is just over, Helen. It's safe to go back out training again without the local hoodies firing rockets at you from their hands, isn't it?
I didn't have any of that, thankfully. But yeah,
really?
safe to go back out there. No, didn't have any hand-fired rockets flying in front of me. I've dodged a few handheld fireworks over the past few days. I'm kind of glad we get a break until New Year's Eve. Wow. No, my most memorable bonfire night was actually going out with the fire brigade, St Helens Fire Brigade.
Right.
That's what you get to do when you work in local radio.
Like a trip around the neighbourhood to put out people's fires kind of thing.
Correct. On bonfire night, yeah.
My most memorable bonfire night was a mate of mine who, in a state of several beers of drunkenness, tried to launch little bottle rockets out of the flies of his Levi 501s.
What?
Yeah. You know how they got the little wooden stick thing? And he put the little wooden stick thing down through the bottom fly of his 501s and lit one and launched a rocket actually out of his jeans. It's amazing that me and my friends are still alive, isn't it?
Who was your friend? What the hell?
Helen. Names will remain nameless to protect the less than innocent.
Wow. May I ask, how old was he doing that?
We must have been 19, 20, I guess. Old enough to know a lot better.
This is disturbing. And had he had a few, sorry? Was that the point?
Yeah, he'd had a few. He's probably not above doing it today to this point, to be honest.
Wow. And nobody was hurt?
No, nobody was hurt. But if you're listening in the car, kids, don't do as we say, do as we do, or vice versa.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that one. So Rob, did you have a good weekend?
Are we gonna have to flag this as like potentially inappropriate content for children on iTunes?
Did you have a good weekend, Rob? I'm moving on.
I had a great weekend, thank you. I was training coaches again. I was up at Lancaster University training coaches for British Triathlon. So we had a great weekend and two massive rainstorms that didn't hit us. Two beautiful sunny kind of days to do the outside coaching bit and managed to dodge the rainstorm. So it was great. Yeah, really good.
Oh, no.
How about yourself? What did you get up to?
I did a bit of marshalling at a local race, which I was meant to do, but I had to swap from running to marshalling, so that was really good. I was handing out beer at the end, beer and malt loaf at the Langley 7, organised by Macclesfield Harriers. Great little race.
Nice.
And then went for a little stomp in the Peak District on Sunday, which was stunning. Beautiful so you know it was one of those beautiful autumnal, cold but blue sky days, and we went up Jacob's Ladder, and
nice.
Yeah, it was really, really beautiful, very boggy, and I nearly got a little bit too hangry for my own good towards the end, but just about made it back to the car and had a tuna sandwich, and then all was good in the world.
The land of Duke of Edinburgh expeditions up there.
Well, now that is interesting.
Has fallen down Jacob's Ladder.
Oh, goodness. It's interesting you should say that because I was asked, does this remind you of DV? And I was like, not at all. Here really doesn't. North Wales, yeah. Lake District, yeah. Being in a bit of annoying group with some fellow annoying, year 9, 10 girls, very much so. Being with my husband on a nice day with no big backpack, not getting lost, nah.
Not DV. Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic. Oh, good for you.
Yeah. There we go. And I'm just about over.
Out there by our teacher because you could get the train out to Edale Station.
Yeah.
And go and clamber around and get the train back on Sunday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's a
It
nice
sounds
little
like
part of the world.
sounds like a famous five type childhood, doesn't it? Lashings of
I
ginger
know.
beer and a walk in the outdoors.
I know. Brilliant. And Rob, the cold that sort of got me towards the end of last week literally wiped me out for a whole week.
Oh no. You recovered now though. I'd forgotten.
Yeah.
That's why I'd forgotten to ask you. How are you, Helen? You
Oh
over your
yeah,
cold?
no. Honestly, it wiped me out last week. I literally didn't do anything. Even I took one spin session, but other than that, I didn't go to the gym. I didn't go to the pool. I didn't even do Pilates. That is how much it wiped me out.
Dear. Well,
That is
Helen,
very
as my
unlike me.
grandma used to say, it's the right time of year to get sick.
Oh, totally. It was
Get
not
immune for the rest of the year.
I hope so. It wasn't pleasant, but anyway, feeling definitely 80% me now. I think it started off at about 70% this morning, so we're making constant progress. This is good.
Glad to hear it. Good, right then. So we jump into our results this week.
Yep, sponsored by precisionhydration.com.
I'm happy to report, Helen, since imbibing precision hydration, there have been no more instances of the midnight yelping calf cramps after turbo sessions.
Excellent.
There's nothing worse, is there?
No, I know you suffer from it a lot worse than I do, the midnight cramps. But
you've managed to avoid them so far, have you?
Yeah, so far. But I was,
Good.
Been putting my hat to good use, marshalling with it, walking in it.
Good. Well, listen, if you want to check out the link on either on the iTunes show notes page or the website show notes page, there is a link you can click that will get you 20% off a Christmas gift card. That's the ideal present for the triathlete in your life this Christmas who you don't know what to get them. You can get them a gift card so they can get themselves loads of lovely goodies from Precision Hydration. So click the link, take you directly to a special page just for podcast listeners. So what's been going on in the world of triathlon this week, Helen?
That's a very good question, Rob. There's not, you can tell, especially in the Northern Hemisphere, it's that sort of time of the year when there aren't quite so many races, and it's just before the Southern Hemisphere really kicks off. We did have the Noosa Triathlon going on this weekend, which is always a big one, isn't it? Down in Australia. And yeah, that was won by Jake Birtwistle and Ashley Gentle, who took it for the fourth time.
And we also had over in Mallorca.
Fifth, Rob. Fifth.
Oh, the fifth time.
Yeah.
Over in Mallorca, we had the long course weekend, which was taken out by Lucy Gossage on the ladies' side. She had a storming performance, didn't she? And Tom Vickery.
Yeah, so both a little nice little first positions there for Erding Alcofry. And Rob, I tell you, it looked really nice. I saw quite a few pictures on the social media, and it looked just nice and sunny. So perhaps one to add on to the calendar for 2018. And if it's anything like Tenby is, then you're in for an awesome weekend. And it's just really cool the way that it's split over, the swim one day, bike another day, and then run on that final day. So yeah, awesome stuff.
I think it's a great way to kick off your sort of winter training. That I really fancied that until it turned out I was working this weekend. I thought that'd be a nice November trip to the sunshine. So who knows, Hals, maybe next year, eh?
Well, honestly, it would. I did see it, and I was like, "Oh, that looks so nice." So nice.
I think I saw that Lucy, she closed out with a 3:02 marathon. I think.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah, nice and solid for her.
Top running, I say.
Good.
Rob, there was one other result that we wanted to bring people, wasn't it? And that was former interviewee Chris Standage went and nailed Ironman Florida age group only race. And Chris managed to go sub-9, didn't he, to take second in his age group, but fourth overall in that race.
Yeah, brilliant performance by him. 51 minute swim, 4:27 on the bike, and then a 3:32 marathon. And he says after not really doing much run training for the last couple of months because of injury. So 8:58 overall for fourth place overall. And I also noticed in the All British results there, we had Phil Murphy down in 9th place with 9:18, and also Nick Rose. Let me call him up. I think he was... slow internet connection. I'm clicking away. I think he was about 30th.
Yeah, Phil Murphy got, he was 10th in his age group and 19th over the line. That was Phil Murphy.
Tell you what breaks your heart, doesn't it? You're 19th overall, and there's 10 people in your age group in
I
front of you.
know. And then Nick
Gutted.
Rose, fourth in his age group and 33rd overall in the race.
So hopefully that's Kona slots bagged for the boys for next year. They were all part of the old Playtas training camp that we did a couple of years back. So great performances from then.
Awesome stuff.
Right, so let's jump over to Coach's Couch.
Yep, this is sponsored by Team Oxygenaddict.
You can download a free 2-week sample training plan or get a 4-week training plan for £5. Just email help@oxygenaddict.com for details.
So the question is from Matt S. and he says, How do you like us to manage our TSB score on Training Peaks? I've read what Joe Friel says on it, which is try to keep above -30 to avoid increased risk of injury and illness. What are your guidelines?
So training stress balance or training stress score is something that regular users of Training Peaks are going to be familiar with, but it's something that people who've not used Training Peaks are basically not going to be familiar with and not going to know about. So we'll talk about it a little bit this week, I thought. And the idea of training stress score is that different kinds of training are going to make you tired in different kinds of ways, but it's trying to find a way to quantify how tired you get, how much stress you're putting on your body from any given training sessions and try and compare them. And it's quite a clever idea, really. So it's kind of a way of looking at overall tiredness. So you could say, I could do 20 minutes really hard on the bike, or I could do an hour quite easy on the bike. Is there a way to compare how much tiredness that's going to produce in my body? And the answer is yes. Each of these sessions, especially if you're using a power meter on the bike, you can get quite an accurate measurement of how tired your body is going to get. And they relate it all to this idea that riding at your threshold time trial effort for an hour is going to give you a score of 100 points. And everything then becomes relative to that. So an easy hour on the bike is probably about 50 points. A really hard interval session might score you higher than 100 points in an hour session, and everything becomes relative to that. What they cleverly do in Training Peaks is give you a graph of how tired you're getting overall. The training stress balance is the difference between your training stress and two different types of training stress, basically the long-term training stress and the short-term training stress. And the two uses for it are that running up to a race, you can try and get yourself really fresh so that you're ready to race and have a good result. But the long-term use of it is if you go too far into the negative, you can have a look at the graph and go, well, actually, there's a kind of danger zone here. And try and back off your training over the coming few days to stop yourself from getting too far in the hole. So Matt's question is, he's hovering around this -30 area. And Joe Friel, whose company came up with the training stress balance, says somewhere in that sort of -10 to -30 area is where you want to be hanging out in order to have the most effect of your training. If you get too far down into the -40, -50, and you're there for more than a few days, the danger is it's a bit of a flag in advance that you're not overtrained yet, but you're in this kind of overreached area. And it's a really clever sort of warning sign of, the challenge is always you can't look into the future, right?
Yeah.
You don't know how the future's gonna, you don't know how you're gonna feel tomorrow or the day after you've done a session today. But the model in Training Peaks can kind of give you that, the graph kind of projects a couple of days into the future and can give you this flag of, watch yourself here, mate. You might be getting a little bit into the hole. And it's just kind of useful. So there are no hard and fast rules with this. But like Joe says, if you're getting way below the -30 area, you want to have a bit of a look at yourself and maybe back off the upcoming training. Now, different people respond differently, and obviously they've only got one model within Training Peaks to, as a kind of model for all people. And some people are going to get rested and refreshed much quicker than somebody else after a training session. And I think the bigger picture that I wanted to put across to people is it's usually what you do after your training session that has a bigger effect on how you recover from your training session than the actual training session itself. So my two examples that I gave to Matt today in our Facebook group were, you might come home from your really stressful training session, you might immediately have a protein shake, put your feet up, have an hour and a half nap in the afternoon, spend the rest of the day watching Netflix, go to bed really early and get a good night's sleep. And the next couple of days you might feel fine. The reality for most athletes is they get back from that really hard training session, they have to mow the lawn, they have to dig the garden, they've got to go to a kid's party, they don't get to eat very much because they're in a real rush to get out to said kid's party. Then that night they've got an adult's party to go to and they go out and have a few pints and they don't get to bed until 3 a.m. You can see how your reaction to the training stress is going to be very different depending on what you do after that training session. So I just wanted to use the answer to the question to raise this point that the graph's an indicator of what might happen, but you need to be mindful of if you are really overreached, I'm going to say, if you are in a heavy training load, be really mindful of what it is you do with your time to recover rather than trying to just be a slave to what numbers say and trying to be a slave to just the training. It's all the other stuff that's going to get you, basically.
And Rob, not everybody has training peaks, obviously. So they're not going to have that the number, are they, to go on? So
I think that's the bigger thing to be aware of. It's interesting to have a little graph to look at in the background, but if you haven't got that, that's fine. Just be super mindful that if you've done a couple of days of hard training and you're starting to get those flags of, things like your sleep's a bit disturbed, or even like hot sweats in the night are a real sign that you're starting to get overreached. Those are the signs that you need to back off the training. But also you can really help yourself out by addressing the recovery from that training afterwards. And although people don't want to hear this, I've said to a few athletes, look, if you know you've got this stuff coming up, you've got the kids' party all afternoon, you've agreed to work with the PTA and go and dig the bonfire out for 4 hours, it might be that you have to adjust the training that you planned on doing because your body's just not going to be able to recover from that session if you've got to do all this extra stuff. If you've got loads of stuff on at work, if you've got loads of late nights. In fact, Chris Standage is a great example of this. We had a conversation when we went to the training camp. He just had a really stressful time with work where he'd been away on a big sales conference. It had been 3 really late nights in a row up till 2 or 3 in the morning entertaining clients. And he was like, I'm absolutely wiped. The first day of my training is going to be lying by the pool and relaxing in the sun as much as I possibly can, because he's an example of a guy who really understands the importance of recovery. So it's balancing all that stuff out before deciding how much training you can do that day.
That all makes a lot of sense, Rob.
Yeah, so it's not about the graphs, it's about making sure you've got the opportunity to recover from the training that you do.
Yeah, that's really cool. I remember it might be worth listening back to, it was Matt Dixon's interview, wasn't it? And he was so good about talking about recovery. And
interestingly, Chris has been coached by the Purple Patch guys for a number of seasons now. So it's interesting that he has got that. It's not interesting, it's obvious that kind of approach is embedded in his training. I know I need to recover from all this crazy stress from work. And that's the interesting bit. It isn't even stress from training. It'd be easy to get to a first day of a camp and go, brilliant, the sun's shining, let's go and nail a big ride. But it's the overall stress you've got to manage as much as the training stress.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the hardest things, because you think that, oh, no, it's not the training, it's this and this and this and this and this. But actually, when you put it all together, then, yeah, we're not superhuman, even though we like to be.
The best thing you can do is not get sick, isn't it? That's the best thing you can hope for. And if, people are very highly motivated to train, but if the reality is you're working a 14-hour shift that day, if you know that you've repeatedly got sick after all these training sessions, the smart thing to do is not train, not get sick, and then be able to do it a couple of days later. The challenge is controlling your mind that's going, you're being weak, you do the job so that you can afford to go and do the sport. It's controlling the mind is the challenge, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It even last week, Rob, when I was really totally wiped out, as I said earlier, and there's this little thing in the back of my head saying, you're just being pathetic, sort yourself out. And there's another bit of me which is going, no, you're really not. Like, you've been in bed this afternoon,
Exactly. It's the inner child and the inner adult, isn't it? One of them's trying to be kind to the other one. We talked a lot about this on the coaching course this weekend when we looked at the graph of, the response to a training session where initially you kind of get tired and then you recover and then you supercompensate. And it's that supercompensation that's important. You get fitter because you recover during the rest period. And if you never get that rest period, you're never going to improve fitness because you're not going to recover from the stuff that you've done.
That's it. That is it. Anyway, well, Rob, I must be one of the most rested people out there now.
Well, maybe in terms of training, but not in terms of life stress and work stress, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah. Very, very true.
That's the overall thing that's going to get you.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'll tell you what, this leads us in nicely to our interview with Lewis Eccleston, because he's a busy guy. He works in construction. He's got a very physical, stressful job, and he fits in his training and racing and around that. So it's going to be interesting to hear his approach to fitting in his training sessions around that work, isn't it, really?
Let's have a listen.
Let's have a listen. Here's our interview with Lewis Eccleston. Lewis Eccleston, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very good, thank you. It's great to be on the show.
No, mate, it's fantastic of you to take the time to come on. We really appreciate it. You must have tired legs still from Kona. How are you recovering?
I'd say the main bit is jet lag.
I recovered, killer, isn't it?
I recovered pretty well after the race, to be honest. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. But yeah, since coming back, it's really suffering with jet lag. You're waking up at like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's hard work to get over.
It doesn't help this time of year either, does it? When it's cold and the clocks have changed and it's getting dark all the time, and it's a hard life, mate. Having to go over to Hawaii, isn't it?
Yeah, someone's got to do it.
Yeah, it might as well be
3
you, right?
weeks just about did it.
Hey, so listen, let's for people who don't know anything about you, let's cover off the basics here. Are you still 24 years old? Are you only 24?
Yeah, 24. I'm 25 in March, so next year I'll be in 25, 29.
So at 24 years old, I've watched your results with great interest over the last few years. Obviously, you're based in the northwest of England like I am, and you're coached by an old friend of mine, and so you've been on my radar for a while. But the thing that interested me was 2016, you won your age group at Ironman UK by something like 25 minutes. 2017, you won your age group at Ironman UK by, was it 50 minutes you won the age group by?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Finishing, I think you were 13th or 14th overall and about a minute behind Lucy Gossage, which is a pretty solid performance, isn't it? In anyone's estimations, man.
Yeah, I was pleased. I was really happy with it.
I bet you were, yeah.
Yeah,
so
couldn't have gone much better, really.
We'll come back to talking about Ironman UK and that race in a bit more detail later on. But I wanted to go back to the start really first and start out by asking you, how did you get into triathlon in the first place? What was your sort of entry into the sport? And were you a sporty kid to start with?
Yeah, pretty much the same as everybody else, really. A lot of people they're doing one sport as a young kid, and then I was playing football, and I sort of stopped playing football around 16, 17. I always did a bit of running to keep fit, and then when I stopped playing football, I seen the London Marathon on the TV, so I put my entry in for it. I got a place first time round, did the London Marathon, and that was it really. It took off from there.
How old were you at the time when you did London?
I think, well, when I registered, I was 16, and I weren't quite old enough to do the race, but the time the race come round, I was old enough to do it. So I was 17 when I did the race.
Snuck in.
Yeah, and I joined Ashley and Tilsley Running Club to get some training and stuff. And a lot of the people there was like seasoned runners. They'd run all their lives, and they was always trying to get into the London Marathon. But I applied on my first time and I got in straight away, so I was really lucky. So if I didn't get into that, then I might not be doing what I'm doing now, really.
Oh wow! Always a good way to ingratiate yourself with the older members of the running club to score a London entry on your first attempt.
Yeah, it's good. I really, really enjoyed it though. I would go and do it again.
London's brilliant, isn't it?
A really, really good race. It's like a full weekend, really.
Yeah.
And the atmosphere of it. But after I'd done London, I carried on running, and because I was such a young runner, I'd started picking up injuries. So I started to swim a bit more, and then I'd start riding my bike a bit more, and then it just snowballed. Then people who I was running with at the club at the time, they'd started to do a few triathlons. So they was like, why don't you come and do a triathlon? And 2012 did a triathlon.
So you were, how old would you have been then? Would you have been 19, something like that?
18, 19, yeah.
Nice, okay. So had you swum as a kid?
Never, no. I started swimming.
So you were proper started to swim as an 18-year-old athlete.
Yeah. I was horrendous. I started swimming, and I was like 8 minutes 30 for a 400.
Okay, yeah.
And now I've managed to, obviously, consistency in training plans and stuff, and down to like 5:20, 5:30.
Nice.
But I'd like to be a bit faster. But
it's a solid first swim, actually. 8:30 is not. There's no shame in swimming 8:30 for 400, but to lop 3 minutes off that over the course of 5 years and get down into the low fives, that's really good swimming. So yeah, and still a work in progress, eh? Still a baby in the swimming world.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about results along the way. Then I had a nosy through your file and picked up a couple of the highlights. By 2014, you got a bronze at the ETU triathlon sprint distance in Kitzbühel. Yeah. And then in 2015, you won the ETU duathlon championships in, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, Alcobendas, was it?
That's the one, yeah.
Hey, that's not bad. Helen's going to be scratching her head at my pronunciations when she hears the interview.
That was pretty good, that.
I don't know about that. So, yeah, I mean, you're pretty young to make the jump to Ironman racing. What was it that sort of put the idea of doing Ironman into your head as a youngster in your early 20s still?
Yeah, well, I did them shorter triathlons and duathlons like that because I was pretty new to it, and it was all new really. I'd seen other people similar age to me doing that, so I set my targets to qualify for GB and for the age group, and then after I qualified, I'd looked at some times and realised I want to set my targets to try and win a medal. And I won medals at the Europe, and I achieved what I wanted to achieve, really. So I thought I'd look for another challenge, something else to really target, over winter.
Yeah.
And I love the training. I love getting up and riding my bike at the weekend, coming home from work and training in the evening. So it was no issue to get the miles in to prepare for an Ironman. And I just love the challenge, really.
Because obviously Ironman UK is right on your doorstep as well, isn't it? The course is pretty much passes by your hometown, as it were. Had you been to see it before you actually took part? Yeah,
I was fascinated by it. I'd go down to the swim in the morning and get up really early, and then I'd follow the bike up to Rivington and watch there, and then I'd watch the run. I just used to watch the pros going past on the bikes, and I was like, "Wow, they're really good." I'd like to do that one day. People used to always say, "Oh, you should do it, and I was like, "I'm a little bit young, I think, to do it, but one day I will do it." And yeah, you go down to Pennington Flash in the morning for the swim, and the atmosphere is just electric. It gives you goosebumps, it's really good. And I thought, wow, I want to do this one day. And then after a few talks with Paul Savage, my coach, he's like, yeah, let's give it a go. And there's a lot of myths around, oh, you're too young to do this, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing marathons at your age. And it's a lot of, it's myths basically, isn't it? You know, it's until you've done it and shown people you can do it, and you can show people up along the way, then as long as you're getting the results and you're doing well, then there's no reason why you can't do stuff like that.
Well, I think you've been very fortunate that you've had some excellent advice along the way. Your coach Paul Savage is one of the most experienced guys around, and he really knows his beans. And I think that's obviously been instrumental in looking after you as you're right, only a relatively young athlete to be doing iron distance, but you've loved getting the training in. But with his guidance as well, I think that's probably been a key part of keeping you safe along the way.
Yeah.
But your first race there in 2016, I think the interesting thing here is you can hear in your voice that enthusiasm of the beginner. Even though you're really, really fast, you're still a beginner at it. Do you know what I mean? And I love that because exactly right. There's loads of people listening who are fired up about the first or second Ironman. You're exactly the same, and you've got the genetics to go really, really fast. So talk us through from the point of view of someone who's, first Ironman 2016 and super genetically talented and super hard worker in training and very fast as an athlete. How was that first experience of Ironman UK for you?
It was mega. You've got to listen to people's advice, especially because I'm so young. I listened to Paul, and I know he worked with Joe Skipper in the past.
Yeah.
And he's had some top results, and you got to listen to these people and other people that have done the race and take it all on board because they've been and done it, and I'm a newbie. So if you listen to their advice and just put it to practice in the race, there's not much that can go wrong, really. If you've done the training and you set your zones, if you like, in your swim and on your bike, you're not gonna go over so much power, or in the run you're gonna stick to a pace on the run. Then it's not difficult, really. You just get, I don't know, you just do it, and I did it, and I loved it. I didn't expect to do as well as I did in the first one. In the first time I did at Bolton, I think I was off running for about 8 months before the race, and they had about a 5-week block where I got up to about 13 mile before the race, and I ran 3:11. So I kept listening to Paul, and I was getting a bit frustrated, but I sort of had to be patient as well. And I didn't force running, and I just let the bike sort of keep my running fitness ticking over, if you like. And then I went into Bolton really fit on the bike, and it stood me in good stead for the run because I got off the bike and I had good legs for the run.
Yeah.
So it's
I think a lot of people find that, don't they? That bike fitness really carries over into running. And if you've not managed to run so well in the lead up to a big race, sometimes it doesn't matter that much because your cardiovascular fitness is there. Your legs have, I know it's not exactly the same training, but your legs have had a lot of training, and somehow it seems to carry over, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like recently in the half distance race I ran, I'd not ran on the track. I'd not done any proper fast running on the lead up to the half, but I managed to run a 1:15.5 on the half marathon, and I was like, I don't know where that's come from, but it's obviously, again, it's coming from being fit on the bike. It's transferred over into the run, and I've just been able to have fresh legs and run a good time.
So what was the experience like? I'm guessing you must have been pretty much at the pointy end of the field. Not right from the off in the swim, but you'd have been riding through a few people in the first hour, right? But after that, you'd have been pretty much out there, yeah?
Yeah, definitely not from the swim, but I did.
So what did you swim? Let's go through the times, and everyone's got a kind of kind of idea where you were? What did you swim in 16?
Just under an hour, I think it was.
Yeah.
59 something. And I was really pleased with that. You know, I wanted to go under an hour.
Yeah.
I did. So I come out of the water feeling pretty good and confident. We went out onto the bike, and yeah, like you say, it was just taking over a lot of people. But at the start of a race, everyone's usually going for it like nutters, aren't they? And they're flying up the hills. And I just had my head down, looking at my pound meter, and just riding to it basically. And yeah, I just kept picking people off and going past people further and further into the race who had come past me at the start on Sheep House Lane on the hill.
Yeah.
And
satisfying feeling, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, and people was flying past me, and I was like, "What time are you going for?" And they was like, "Oh, I want to go under 6 hours." And I rode 5.5 hours on my first one. And I was like, I think you need to slow down a little bit because you're going to blow up. And yeah, you go past them at about 90 mile. And I remember I come into T2 at the Reebok, and I got told I'm in 22nd position overall. And I was like, wow, I didn't realise that. And I went out onto the run feeling great, feeling really good with obviously a little run miles in my legs.
And did you feel good all the way through the run, or did you end up? Because obviously there's got to be a little bit of mental chatter going on, saying, "I've only run 13 miles in preparation for this." So how was your experience of the run then?
Yeah, it was good. Like the last time I'd run a marathon was in 2011, and I'd not run. I don't think I'd run past 13 mile since that, really, and that was the longest run, the marathon in Bolton. And I remember I felt really good all the way up to about 24 mile, and the last turnaround on Charlie Road, when I turned around and I started heading back into town, I knew I was well ahead of my age group. People kept saying like where I was, and I decided to pick the pace up a bit on the way in the last 3 mile. I don't think I should have done, because I got about a mile away from the finish, and I went really dizzy. I started seeing stars, but boy. I managed to get some coke down me, and it picked me back up straight away. It's like rocket fuel.
Yeah, there's nothing like the magic coke when you need it most, is there?
Yeah.
So then, 2016, obviously amazing debut for you, and then you've gone away over the winter. What was your plan going into 2017? Because I know you made the decision not to take your Kona slot in 2016, didn't you?
Yeah. I decided before I entered Bolton that I weren't going to take the slot no matter where I finished.
And what was that based on? What was your thinking for that?
Basically because I'm only young, and I didn't want to rush into something that I didn't know that much about, really. Like Ironman, I wanted to get some more experience of racing it, and maybe the confidence that I got the second time round as well, that it gives me to go to the World Championships. You know, I knew if in the future that I was going to do more Ironman races, and if I wanted to qualify, then going off my first result in Ironman, then I could probably qualify again if I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then the second time round, I was like, yeah, I want to qualify this time, and I want to go. So I thought it was my last time in this age group to qualify to go to the Worlds in my age group.
Yeah.
So I sort of put a lot of pressure on myself this time round because it was my last time, and yeah, I just did it. Qualified.
So you ended up going a good bit faster, didn't you, in 2017? What did you put that down to? What sort of changes did you make in your training over the winter from 16 into 17 that you think made the difference to go faster in 17?
Nothing really. I think I looked at aerodynamics, a bit of kit changes.
Yeah.
But if it works, why change it? You know, if your training's working and you can see improvements, why would you change your training going into a race? You know, you just stick to that, keep working hard, keep increasing the power on the turbo, and just getting fitter basically. And that's what made me go faster.
So you ended up racing. I've got a couple of results down there for you. You won Slateman early season in 2017. So that must have given you notice that your training was going on the right track.
Yeah, it's always a good race to do, something like that early in the season, I think, because if you can stay consistent over the winter, and you know it's you get over to January, February, and you're not that far away from some of the earlier races in the year, and you can really see how much your winter's training has worked over the winter. And you can see the numbers going up in training and the heart rate getting lower, but until you actually race against other people, you don't know how much you've improved.
Well, one of the races you had that was interesting, obviously at IMUK UK this year, Brian Fogarty finished 4th overall. We had him on the show. We had Foggy on a little while ago. And you and him had a right good battle at the Sundowner half, didn't you, in the lead up to Kona?
Yeah, really good.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Brian's someone who I've always looked at and, you know, thought, wow, what a guy on the bike. he's a top athlete. And yeah, going into, I actually raced against him in a time trial a few weeks before Sundowner, and I weren't a million miles off. So I thought, you know what, going into Sundowner, I've got a pretty good chance if I can get somewhere near on the bike. And yeah, I thought, before the race, I said, if I can come in within 5 minutes of Brian on the bike, then that would be good. That would be a good bike. And I think on the first lap of the bike, because it's a 2-lap bike course at Sundowner, it took like 3 minutes out of me, 4 minutes on the first lap. And then on the second lap, it weren't quite as much. And we come in on the run, for the run. And because it's laps as well, and it was pretty well spectated, I was getting told how far ahead he was every time I come round. And I was just closing up the gap, really. I set off running at like 3:30 a k. And I was
Brilliant.
like, wow, that feels quite comfortable. Because I set out to run at 1:21.
Yeah.
I thought, that's I should be able to do that. But I started running my first few k at 3:30. I was like, I feel all right here. And people keep telling me that I'm catching Brian. And yeah, because at the turnaround, I seen him. And I seen I was getting closer and closer. And yeah, I just held the pace. And I caught up to him and I was like, wow, I never thought I'd be able to race against him like this. You know, because I can't really think of anybody else who'd beat him. And there I was next to him. And yeah, I just kept working hard and managed to peel away from him and just take it by like 35 seconds. But I was really pleased with that and took a lot of confidence out of that leading into Kona, which is only a few weeks away.
Yeah, I bet it did. And that leads us nicely into talking about Kona, doesn't it, really? So talk us through your race that happened out there.
Yes, well, I was going into it blind, really, because I've never been. I never experienced it. But like, again, from the first time at UK, I had good people around me, like Paul Savage again, who's been. He's shared houses over there with like Lucy Charles, Reece Bartley, Joe Skipper. So I'm surrounded by a lot of people who know a lot about the race.
Yeah.
And I got myself into an environmental chamber, a heat chamber, and I'd done some testing in there to see, because in there I could set it to the heat in Kona and the humidity mainly that was in Kona.
That was fairly terrifying.
And
the first time you walked in there.
It was about 7 o'clock at night. It was about 12 degrees outside, and I come from outside and I walked in and I was like, wow. Even my bike started sweating. But yeah, we set all the humidity and the heat in there, and I was working with people in there who work with world class athletes. Like I'm just a weekend warrior to them, and they work with top world class people all the time. And we was looking at what we could ride to, what we could run to, and I learned so much in the chamber that it was just priceless, basically. And then I just took all the information from that out to Kona, and because I was there for about 10 days before the race, I managed to do some good sessions. I got some good 2-hour rides in, some good hour runs in, and I was getting data from that, like the heart rate and the pace and the speed and stuff. It was well on par of a 9:30 and 9:20 finish. So I was really confident that I'd acclimatized so well out there, because the heart rate just kept getting lower and lower and lower.
Well, I was going to ask you that. It was Manchester Institute of Health and Performance, wasn't it, that you did the heat training?
That's right.
What sort of information did you get from, like, what was different when you got in the heat straight away? What was the thing that you noticed as you were riding in the heat in there first off?
Sweat. You sweat so much.
So volume of sweat was the first thing that you saw.
Yeah. But
did they have a way of measuring that in there?
I measured it myself.
Okay.
There's a few things you can do. I weighed my bottles before I went, and then I weighed the liquid that was in them, and then I weighed myself before I get on the bike, and then you make a note of how much you drink, and then weigh yourself after you've done your bike, and you write all these little numbers down in details, and then you work out how much you sweat, basically.
I see. Yeah.
After that, I was trying to think what I sweat. I sweat like in an hour on the bike. I was like, this is the Ironman pace. I think I sweat like 1.25 liters in an hour at Ironman pace.
Oh, I can believe that. Yeah. In the heat and humidity, absolutely. It can be bonkers, can't it?
Yeah. But I've been working with precision hydration.
I was going to say, man, I was thinking after the show I should mention these guys to you.
Yeah, it's really good. So I've been using their stuff, and
Brilliant.
That's really helped me as well.
Yeah, it makes this a game changer, isn't it, for the...
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's really good stuff.
I mean, you won't remember this, man, but trying to mix up your own salt drinks back in the day when you're actually using table salt and you're like, physically cannot stomach this. It tastes like drinking salt water.
I've tried it. I've done it myself.
Oh, it's beastly, isn't it?
Because salt at the end of the day. But yeah, it's all worked out by them. They're all over it. They're good.
Yeah, it makes such a difference that the sodium doesn't taste salty, doesn't it? It's such a big deal.
Yeah, but like in the chamber, we was doing some tests, and it was looking okay on the bike. You know, the numbers compared to what I was holding at Ironman UK. But when we got onto the run, I was running it. I found that I could only run it like 4:50, 5 minutes a K, and that was the same heart rate as running at Ironman UK at, say, like, I don't know, 4:10, 4:15, and it was at the same heart rate. But I was obviously running, 50 seconds slower in that heat at the same heart rate. So it does have a massive effect. And I think if I will definitely go to Kona again. It won't be my first time. When I go again, I will be in the chamber a lot.
Yeah.
You need to acclimatise to it.
And did you see that change a lot? Obviously, with the acclimation that happened when you were out in Kona, did you see a gradual drop in your heart rate for the pace you were running, and an increase in pace for the same heart rate? Yeah,
it was massive.
Yeah.
When I was first out there, I was running about 4:50 a K, 5 minute a K, and my heart rate was up at like 143, 144. And then about a week later, I was running at like 420, 4:15 a k, and my heart rate was at the same, about 1:43. Yeah. So it just shows you how quick your body can acclimatise to it if you get out there with enough time.
Yeah.
But it's the same on the bike. The heart rate was coming down and the power was going up, but it was still like 30 watts off what would ride at Ironman UK. But you obviously put the three disciplines together. I had no idea what my heart rate was in the water, but I can imagine it was about 160, and it just throws it all out. You get on your bike and it's sky high your heart rate, and if you go out on the bike and your heart rate's sky high and you keep going and you keep battering it, it's only going to go one way. It don't matter if you're an age group or you're a pro. If you keep battering it and your heart rate's sky high, that's it. You might as well forget it.
So what did you do then on race day? Obviously, you get out of the water. You've had a crazy hard swim anyway. You're all excited. Did you just have to tell yourself to chill out and back off for the first few miles?
Yeah, that was it. I had my target zones where I was going to ride at, and that was that. I come out of the water and I had a really good swim, to be honest. I swam 1:01, 1 hour 59, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was really happy, and I come out with the water with so many people. It was madness. You come out of a swim like that over in the UK and there's not that many people around you, but over there the feels just so good.
Yeah.
There's loads of people. And you go out, everyone, the volunteers are just waiting there with your bag. You run out, grab your bag, jump on your bike, and everyone's just nailing it. And I was just there tooting along, trying to get my heart rate down. And you do like a little bit into town and back, and then you go up Palani Hill. It's not a hill really. It's a little lump basically.
Yeah.
And I was getting passed by guys who are like 60-year-old. I was just laughing to myself, thinking, "These nutters are just going to end up blowing up and
see you in a bit,
dying later in the race." Exactly. Yeah. And he just got onto the Queen K, and it was like a sportif basically. There's that many people on the course, there's nothing you can really do to avoid drafting. It's just a continuous line of people because it's such a high level out there. But the penalty tents along the course was full as well, so it was good to see that people was getting penalised, but they was obviously being sensible about it as well, the marshals, because there was so many people.
Yeah.
Until you hit Harvey, you hit quite high, and then I think you climb for about 5 or 6 miles to the top of the turnaround point at Harvey, and the wind is just insane. It's from every single direction, so it's not like you've got a headwind going up the hill and a tailwind down. It's just from every direction you can think of. And then you turn around there at Harvey and you're heading back down, and it's frightening. How fast you're doing, like 35 mile an hour, and the wind, it's just mad. So windy.
Are there a lot of people around you still at this stage? Obviously you've talked about how peloton like it is early days. Is it quite scary in the crazy crosswinds with lots of people around you as well? How did you deal with that?
I'd say on the turnaround, there's not that many people because it breaks up. It starts to break up, and the groups aren't as big. It's still a continuous line, but there's like massive gaps in between people. And from that turnaround point, I started passing people, and I was still sticking to my numbers, even though we'd just gone up a big climb, and it was really hot in that quite high in Harvey. It gets up to like 35, 40 degrees. And on the way back, I didn't get overtaken on the way back to transition.
Wow. And
that, as I was like, right then, that's really paid off for me. Sticking to my plan and riding consistently. It really worked for me. And it just made my way back to town. And I knew, because when you reach the airport, there's about 5 miles to go till you get back into transition, and I knew I weren't on for it in 5 hours on the bike, which I was really confident of on the days leading up. But I just thought there's nothing I can do about it. The conditions are what they are. I can only ride to what I can ride, and that was it. Yeah, I was just like 5:07 on the bike, which was basically what put me out of the top 5 at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you stayed very calm mentally through all of this, and it would have been easy to kind of lose your mind at 147 different places along the ride, but you stayed very chilled and rode your numbers, and I'm sure your bike time was affected by all the people around you, but you stayed chilled out, and then this paid off on your marathon, didn't it?
Yeah, I managed to come off the bike feeling good, and yeah, it's the same again. I got off the bike and I started running, and my heart rate was so high, and I just wanted to run faster, but I couldn't. I had to just slow it right down and try and get the heart rate down, basically. Or it was going to be a long, hard, crap day, basically. Yeah. And yeah, it was really good in town, because it's like a 5 mile out, 5 mile back, and the feed stations and the volunteers are so good that everything's there basically until you turn around, you get to Palani, you climb up the bit of a hill, and
it really is a hill at this point.
yeah. you run along the Queen K, and I started to pick a few people off, but still, even then, it was about 13 mile, and I felt like I could run faster, but the plan was to get to about 10k to go and really pick it up. So that was just after the energy lab. So we went into the energy lab. I was expecting the worst. I was expecting it to be really bad, but like it was the same again. I had thoughts it was going to be horrendous with the heat and everything, but at no point in the race did I think it's too hot, I can't do this, I'm going to die. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the whole race. And in the energy lab, just got energized basically. Took on loads of cold sponges, gels, and come out and picked the pace up and ran. I think the first half was 1:45 marathon, and then the last half was 1:43 marathon. So same again, and I paced it really well.
Yeah.
As I started taking over loads of people on the way back and picking everybody off, but you have no idea where you are in the race because there's just no one there.
Yeah, he's just running.
Yeah, there's no one there to give you information or anything. You're just on the motorway.
And so you had a really strong back half of your run, I think a lot stronger than a lot of the athletes around you, and you ended up just shy of 5th in 6th place, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like 3 minutes 20 off 5th place, which going into the race I was confident I was going to do 9.5 hours, but on the day and my body it wouldn't have allowed that. And if I'd have pushed harder to try and hit the times on the bike and on the run, it could have just gone so wrong, and all the work leading up to it and all the information I got off everybody else, it'd have been a waste of time. They'd have just thought, you've not listened, you've gone out there and you've just blew up.
Yeah.
But I think I finished 7th in the age group overall. I think like the top, after the first guy just smashed it. He was an animal.
Yeah.
After him, like the top 8 was always in 10 minutes.
That's right, yeah.
So
I remember looking at the results and thinking it was super close, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was mega close. It was a top field. And I couldn't have given any more on the day. And like, I don't know, you listen to most people go out there and they say, oh, it's a nightmare, but I feel like I went out there and I executed my perfect race. I couldn't have given any more on the day.
Yeah.
So I've learned loads. I've learned so much for next time. that when I feel like I've improved enough, I will go again and I'll do a few things differently.
Yeah.
I think the guy who won my age group, like I think 2 years ago, he was 9:45, and 2 years later he finished in 9:02, I think he was, and he was something like 44th overall in the race.
Wow.
So it just shows that if you do the right things and you listen to the right people, then you can improve and you can get better. And like looking at a lot of the top age group guys and girls who are over there, I've got massive respect for them who can go out there and perform to such a high level to knock out like 4:50 on the bike, 5 hour on the bike, and run like 3 hour marathons and freedom marathons.
Yeah.
I just look at them and think, wow, they're just, yeah, it's inspiring to see. Good.
Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, I mean, it's amazing that you've had such a great debut. I think lots of people go to Kona. Everyone goes to Kona hoping they'll have the perfect race, and lots of people, really get badly burnt out there. They come and just have that horrendous experience of walking for most of the marathon. So I can hear in your voice that you're energized and excited by the fact that you had a really good race out there. The cards fell where they would, and you've learned loads to take out for next time. You obviously, at the moment, you're still working full time. You work full time as a builder, right? So it's not like you're sitting down all day, having a nice relaxing recovery day in between training sessions. You're physically grafting all day, aren't you?
Yeah, that's it. I think like most people that you see my results, they'll probably the first thoughts think, oh, mummy and daddy support him, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But it's not that. I just work all the time, and I just train as well.
Yeah.
So
how do you balance that on a day-to-day basis? How do you fit in training around a 40-odd hour building week?
Just because I want to do it, basically. I like to come home and I'm training. That's it. There's anything else comes after that, basically. Same at weekends, first thing, I get up in the morning, I go swimming, I go running, I go on my bike. It's just a lifestyle. I just love to train. And if you're at work and you come home and you're tired and you can't be bothered, and some nights I have nights like that where I'm like, I can't be bothered tonight, I'm really tired, I just want to get in bed. But you think you need to do this to get to what you want to achieve in your races. If you don't do it, then you're not going to achieve it. So make your mind up, what do you want to do?
What sort of weekly training do you put in? What sort of volume? How many times do you swim, bike and run in a given week?
So I swim 3 times a week, 4 hours.
Okay.
4.5 hours a week. Cycle 3 times a week. And I run twice a week.
So there's no secrets there, are there? There's no there's no crazy training plan going on. It's just like consistent 3 times a week before work with swimming, 3 bikes, 2 runs after work, a lot of stuff done at the weekend.
Yeah.
Tired all the time from working and just fit it in.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm probably training like 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
And there's no rocket science behind it. It's not hard. All you got to do is be consistent and you'll see results. You got to really want to do it. And I love it. And it obviously pays off in the races that I've been doing.
Oh, it's definitely come across that it's working for you for sure. Have you had anybody helping you out in terms of sponsorship and stuff? Because obviously now you're starting to win races on a national and even international stage. It's not unusual for people to sort of start trying to help people like yourself out. Yeah,
I've been supported recently by Ag for Healthcare. They helped me out in Kona, and they've supplied me with some kit and things, and it's good publicity for them, and they also help me getting my name out there as well.
Yeah,
which is good. But people always say to me, "Why don't you try and get with this sponsor, that sponsor? Try and get this kit." And I just do it for the enjoyment, really. I just love to race, love to train, and at the end of the day, I'm not in it to try and get free kit from someone, or some free chocolate bars, or some free powder. I just love to train and race. And yeah, Agfa come along and they said, we'll help you out. And yeah, they can open up some other doors for me as well, and opportunities, and that'll be great.
And have you got thought? I mean, you must have thoughts in the back of your head about maybe one day turning pro, right? Has that thought crossed your mind?
People keep saying that to me, like, but I just like I said, I love to train and race, and I just want to keep training hard and see how far I can get.
Yeah.
And keep enjoying it, basically. And maybe, I don't know, 5 or 10 years time, when I'll be in my prime, maybe I could have a dabble. But for now, I just want to keep enjoying it, and doing races and having fun. But obviously, if you look from 2011, how much things have progressed, then I just want to keep progressing, basically, and getting better and better and better.
Yeah.
And one day, yeah.
Well, you were what? You were just outside the top 10 overall at Ironman UK this year. You get yourself inside the top 10 next year. I mean, who knows? You, like you said, you and Foggy had a fantastic head-to-head, and he finished 4th overall, didn't he, at UK this year? Yeah. So you might only be a season away from a breakthrough like that, and at that point, who knows what the future might hold, mate. But listen, thank you very much for your time and coming on the show, mate. It's been dead interesting to hear your story. And your passion for the sport really comes across more than anything. You just clearly just love to swim, bike and run. And it's great to see you getting the results from all those years of hard work, mate.
Yeah. Cheers, Rob. Thanks a lot.
It's good stuff. Well, I hope we can get you back on the show in another year's time and see how you've progressed.
Yeah, hopefully.
He's a guy who gets the work done, Hells, around the other hard work he's got going on, that's for sure. He's got the constitution of an ox, I reckon.
Do you reckon?
Oh, yeah.
It sounds... Yeah.
He's cut from the same cloth as Joe Skipper, for sure. He's got that. He's got some kind of genetic ability to bounce back from all that hard work he does at work, and then the hard work he does in training, and super, super motivated to get it done all the time.
It's impressive.
Yeah, I love that
Honestly,
comment.
very
Even
impressive.
my bike was sweating.
Oh, God. Yep. No, it's awesome stuff. And he did very well at UK, didn't he, this year and last year?
Yeah, and 7th overall at Kona this year. So it's on the cards for the future if he gets the heat of the run sorted. There's not much in it with those top few boys in his age group.
How exciting is that? That's really cool.
Yeah. Quality athlete. So, yeah, thanks for the interview there, Lewis. And let's move over onto our news section.
Yeah, so a little bit to bring you. First up is that, I think this one's quite exciting, Rob. So Kimberly Morrison is going to race for Drag to Zero. She's on the team for 2018. And she would like to have a go, basically, at the 100-mile TT record and also qualify for Kona. Those are her main goals. She did Barcelona, didn't she?
Yeah, there must be people going,
5th
don't
spot.
make Kimberly Morrison any faster. Keep her out of the wind tunnel. Please don't make her any faster.
She will be flying, won't she?
Yeah, even more so.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's one bit of news. And then, Rob, there was a rather... impressive performance there were many impressive performances, but one of them in particular at the New York Marathon.
New York Marathon, yeah. Sarah Desana, who's an Italian, is she an ITU athlete or a duathlete technically? What would we class her as?
Both.
Bit of both, really.
Yeah.
2:29 at the New York Marathon.
I love it. That is amazing. 2 minutes 46 seconds. Behind the winner, Shalane Flanagan. That's really cool running, isn't it?
It's astounding. There's a thing on Slow Twitch about her. She's got a PB of 16:25 for 5k and 33 flat for 10k. So I was doing a rough bit of maths, and I mean, you remember Hal Davis? I know Hal's been knocking on the door of 15:59 for 5k, and he's a 2:29 marathon runner. So her ability to keep on going, she's running at about 15 seconds a mile slower than a 10k pace for the whole marathon. It's mind-boggling.
Blimey. That is insane, isn't it? I just, yeah.
A half marathon is basically the same speed as a 10k.
Well,
doesn't
yeah.
slow down.
It's just 1:10, isn't it? 1:10 for half marathon PB. 10k is what, 33:11?
So do the maths, that would be 66 minutes plus another 3 minutes 30. So 1:09:30.
Awesome. But basically, she got pretty badly injured in like the mid 2000s, and her coach was like, well, maybe you should, do a little bit of cycling, do a bit of swimming to help with your recovery. So she agreed to try triathlon and duathlon as she got back to fitness, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how. So yeah, she is. And do you remember when I spoke to Beth Potter?
Yes.
Earlier on in the summer, and Beth Potter is a 10,000 metre athlete, represented Great Britain at the Rio Olympics and also this summer at the World Championships. But then in January, she moved up to Leeds to start training as a triathlete. And we had her on the podcast. Brilliant interview. Go back and have a listen to it. But I remember saying you must be in quite a unique position lining up, going to be doing the World Championships. Yeah. And the key triathlon race as well. And she said that I'm sure she said there is another athlete who mixes the two. So it could well be that it's Sarah Dossena.
Yeah. Good memory. Yeah, that's impressive. 2:29.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Wowzers. I wonder if she'll move to Ironman. Imagine lining up against her in an Ironman though, and you've got a 2:29 flat marathon run the next year.
Blimey. Yep. There we go.
Hey, listen, how are things with Fueled by Cake?
Oh, Fueled by Cake, I'm going to tell you in a moment. I just wanted to tell you one tweet from David McNamee, which made me laugh. And he says, it kind of sums up this time of year. Mid-ride pit stops throughout the season. January to April, cafe for coffee and cake. May to Kona, petrol station for water. Post Kona till Christmas, pub.
You can take the Scotsman out of Scotland, right?
Yeah, exactly. Fueled by More Cake is, I gave it the final sign-off last night, so imminent, Rob. Imminent, hopefully over the next 2 weeks it should be out.
Brilliant. Nice work.
Ooh, quite scared. I have a lot of books to sell.
And breathe. And breathe.
And breathe. It's been a lot of hard work over the last month. All good. Yeah. Fueledbycake.com. Check it out. Not yet. When I tell you to check it out and buy a copy.
Get your finger hovering over the buy button. Just go to the site and get warmed up. Just ready to buy.
That's it. Get warmed up, ready.
All right, I'll tell you what, I think that just about brings us to the end of the episode, doesn't it?
I think it does.
It does. Well, listen, thanks very much to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Click that link in the show notes. It'll take you to the webpage to get yourself a gift card for Christmas. You can get yourself, nobody needs more socks from grandma. What you need is a bunch of specifically targeted hydration salts. And also Team Oxygenaddict. It's the right time of year to start thinking about a training plan for 2018. Get over and check it out. You can try one for free and see if it suits you. But until next week, I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And you've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. I hope you all have a great, safe training and racing week and that nobody throws a bottle rocket at you while you're out training. Until next week, see ya.